Nope, I didn't do my A-levels, and yeah, I still got into Oxford. How? Well, because of COVID. But wait, don't click off yet. If you're planning to apply to study at Oxford, I can still help you out with that. Even though I didn't actually do my A-levels, I can still guide you through the process to securing that offer to study there. I'll be drawing from my own journey and experience of applying there, as well as the experiences of some of my friends who also did apply. Be sure to stick with me through this whole video so that you can get as much information as possible about applying to Oxford. This will give you the best chances of securing that offer and then eventually securing your place to study there. So yeah, let's get into the video. So you might be wondering, who exactly am I to be giving you advice on applying to Oxford? Well, my name's Lisa and I'm currently an undergraduate at Oxford studying experimental psychology in St. Catherine's College, which is the best college. I'm just putting it out there, not biased at all, okay, I'm just saying. But yeah, even though I didn't do my A-levels, the rest of the application process was pretty much exactly the same as it usually is, which I'll be running throughout this whole video. So it's awesome in that, right? I got into Oxford, but why exactly did I apply to Oxford in the first place? Well, in year 11, we had like a spontaneous one-day residential in Oxford, and when we went, I absolutely loved the city. Like, it's so different from where I live. Like, I live in Birmingham, and it's just like, it's so small, everything's so close together, and the buildings are amazing. I just fell in love with the city. That's pretty much the main reason I wanted to apply there. But yeah, ever since that one-day residential in year 11, I've just wanted to go to Oxford, really. So my mind was focused on getting in ever since the start of year 12. Even before that, while I was doing my GCSEs, I was thinking, I need good enough grades to get in. I need good enough grades to give me the potential to get into Oxford. I didn't even know that I would be able to get in. It was kind of just a dream. But now we're here, and I don't know how I got here. But yeah, that's me. But now let's get into the main meat of the video. First things first, grades. And by grades, I'm specifically talking about GCSEs and predicted grades, alright? I'm not talking about A-levels here. Yeah, GCSEs are actually somewhat important to getting into, well, Oxford, which kind of sucks because you're not really thinking about, hey, I'm going to apply to Oxford in year 11, unless you're me. I'm a bit of a weird case there. With the new grading system, I got 5 9s, 3 8s, and 3 7s at my GCSEs, which is pretty damn good grades. Some of you thinking of applying to Oxford might either be like, whoa, that's fine, I got like way higher grades than that. And some of you might be thinking, what the heck, that's so high. How are they gonna let me in? Now, you might be pleased to know that the GCSEs aren't the be-all or end-all of getting in. It's nice to have really good GCSEs, but if you don't have them, it's fine. Because the way that they assess your application is that they look at all of the factors. They look at your predicted grades, they look at your GCSEs, they look at your entrance exams, they look at your written work, blah, 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 interviews, all of that. They just kind of amalgamate it into like one big blob. And another thing that you might be pleased to know is that they look at your school. They don't just look at your grades, they look at your grades compared to the grades of your cohort. That means that if you got really good grades for your school, if you got like top grades, let's say for example you get like 6 7s and like the rest 6s or something, but you got like the best in your school, that's actually probably better than, let's say you get my grades and everyone else in your school gets like all 9s. So keep in mind the context of where you studied and the grades that you got are taken into account. Now, GCSEs aren't the only important kind of grades to take into factor. Predicted grades matter quite a lot. I would argue that they matter a bit more than GCSEs, as long as you haven't failed your GCSEs. If you have failed your GCSEs, good luck trying to get into Oxford. I'm just saying, guys. I don't want to put anyone off, but you got to look at kind of the statistics here. Most people who do get into Oxford get mostly A's or above, which are 7s or above in GCSEs. But if you haven't got that, maybe it's still worth applying. I don't know your circumstances, I don't know what school you go to. Like I said, they compare you to your cohort, so maybe you can still get in. But yeah, moving on to predicted grades. I actually think predicted grades are more important of a factor for getting in than GCSEs. Every single course in Oxford has a different minimum required A-level grades / predicted grades to get an offer and get in. So I'd recommend looking it up. For psychology, it was A-star AA. That's what I needed. I needed 1 A-star and 2 A's. My predicted grades came out as 2 A-stars and an A, thanks to decent mock exams at the end of year 12. So take those exams seriously, because your predicted grades could be the difference between you getting an offer and you not getting an offer. You need to get that minimum requirements in your predicted grades. I don't know if it's 100% a necessity, but it's definitely a big factor of getting in. If you really, really desperately want to get into Oxford and your teachers have not given you those predicted grades, even though you feel like you deserve them, try to dispute it as well as you can. Try and get those grades. But yeah, get decent GCSEs and get decent predicteds and you're set. Now we got that out of the way, let's talk personal statement. Now, the best advice that I could give you about writing a personal statement is to write a story. And I'm not telling you to write gibberish, because if you write gibberish, you're just not getting in, let's be honest there. By write a story, what I mean is to kind of link your paragraphs together. You want to make it flow, you want to make it really smooth, okay? That's kind of what they want. They want to see that you're able to link your ideas together. But other than the structure of the actual personal statement, the content is definitely more important. And because it's an Oxford application, you're going to want to write about the subject that you're applying for as much as humanly possible. If you've read books, write about books. They love that. And if you haven't read any books yet and you're planning to apply, go and read at least one book, at least 1 or 2 books. Please read those books. Because if you can write about them in the personal statement, it shows that you already have an interest in the field of study before you already study it. And when you write about these books, you don't want to regurgitate info, just be like, hey, I learned this, I learned that, I learned this. Okay, shut up, all right? They don't give a shit about that. What they care about is your interest in the subject. In Oxford, they care a lot more about your passion for the subject that you're going to be studying. So what you want to write about is not about what you learnt, it's about what you were interested in. Let's say you're writing the personal statement. Instead of writing, from this book, I learnt that blah, 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 blah. Instead of writing that, say, in this book I was reading about this and I found it immensely intriguing. Earlier I was saying to write a story, say I found this really intriguing, which led me to read this other book, or led me to go attend this presentation, or led me to do some volunteering at this certain place, so that you can link it together. To summarize, link as much of your personal statement to the subject area that you're going to study as possible. Try and write about the things that interested you and the things that you've read / learned / went to, and then link it all together. Also, just adding on, maybe at the end of your personal statement, just slap in a few of your character traits and what you do, a bit about yourself at the end. You know, at the end of the day, they don't want a robot to be coming and studying there. They want an actual human being who has their own likes and interests, but is also very interested and passionate about the subject that you're applying to study. And the next step is the admissions test. So now you're gonna have to look up what admissions test you have to do. And you might find out that you're lucky enough to not have to do one at all, which, lucky you, that's the end of all of that, except from interviews, which I'll be talking about next. If you don't have an admissions test, now you're just waiting on Oxford to send you either a confirmation that you got an interview or a sorry, you did not get an interview this time, which sucks, but hey, look, at least you gave it a go. I always encourage people to at least give it a go, because who knows, maybe later down the line, you might regret not having applied, because what if I did apply? What if I did get in? Would my life be completely different? But since you did apply and you didn't get in, hey, at least you know, and at least you tried. And obviously it's really not the end of the world if you don't get in. If you have a decent shot of getting in, please just try. But yeah, you're gonna have to look up what admissions test you have to do. So for psychology, I had to do the TSA, which is the Thinking Skills Assessment Test. Basically, it's a lot about abstract thinking, and there's an essay that I have to write at the end, and then they mark it. There's also the MATs, the PATs, the HATs, the ELATs, all of that. Wow, that rhymes really well. As maths is basically like maths admission test, PAT is like physics admissions test. It's like history, blah, 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 English language. Just make sure that you know what test you have to do. Then if you're part of a public education, ask your school how to apply for those tests, because you have to do them. If you don't do them and your subject requires it, you're not getting in. Full stop. Apply to do the test. And you apply to do the test the year before you plan to go to uni in September, and then sit the actual exam in October. What they actually do with these tests is they compare you to the cohort, and they want to see if you have the skills of an Oxford student, whatever that means. But basically, they want you to do well, and they compare you with a cohort of everyone else who is taking the exam. I actually got below average on the TSA, which kind of sucks, but I still managed to get in, so don't be discouraged if everyone else around you is getting a higher test score. If everyone else you know is getting a higher test score than you in the test that you're doing, don't worry, because even if you get below average, or even if you get kind of significantly below average, you still have the chance of getting in. Please make sure that you revise for these tests adequately. And by adequately, I mean start revision at least 2 months before. Especially if you're doing the PATs. I heard the PAT was really hard, which is the physics admissions test. You have to do that 3 months before at least. Do past paper questions, get familiar with the questions, and yeah. Depending on the test that you're going to do, you might have to do more revision than others. So for example, for the TSA, we didn't have to do too much revision. It's just good to go over past paper questions so that you get familiar with the type of questions that you're going to be asked, and also so that you get used to writing an essay in a timed environment. So I think you have to write an essay in like 30 minutes or something. So to summarize, make sure that you know whether or not you have to do an admissions test, and if you do, apply in September and sit them in October, and revise for at least 2 months. I'm going to talk a little bit about written work here, because I didn't actually have to do written work, so I don't know what that's like. But all I know is that You have to look up whether or not you have to do written work. Some subjects require it. I think that English does, but psychology didn't. You might have to write an essay, you might have to submit some work that you've already done, and I think you have to submit that before mid-November. Look up when the deadline is. You want to reach the deadline. Do not submit after the deadline. Make sure you know when you have to submit your work, essentially. And they'll mark that, they'll grade it, whatever. And yeah, all of these things are kind of put together to decide whether or not you get the interview. So now they're putting your grades from GCSEs and predicted grades together, they're putting your personal statement and your score on these admission tests and written work. All of them are put together, as well as your teacher's reference. So be nice to your teachers so they give you a good reference. But they put all of these factors together and they look at it and they say, hey, would this person be able to excel in Oxford? Because what they want is they want students who would suit the learning environment in Oxford, because it's not for everyone. The learning environment in Oxford is quite intense. Well, that's what I've heard. I haven't actually been there yet. But from what I've heard, it's quite intense. So now after the admissions test and written work, you're pretty much just waiting until the end of November/early December to get an email from Oxford saying, hey, congratulations, you got an interview place, or saying, hey, sorry, you didn't get an interview this time. You're pretty much just a sitting duck, so you're just gonna have to wait. And if you get the interview, that's what I'm going to be talking about next. Before we get into the interview, remember to hit the like button if you're enjoying this or if it's helping out, and hit the subscribe button for more Oxford videos from me. Now let's assume that you got an interview. Congratulations, it's amazing. You're going to Oxford for about 1 day to 4 days now. And yes, you basically get free residential at Oxford, you get free food, you get free accommodation for the time of your interviews. Well, as long as you live in the UK. Once you get to your college, you're going to be given accommodation and you're going to see all of your competition, you're going to see all of those applicants, and you're going to be like, wow, everyone's so smart. Or at least that's how I felt. You might feel a bit of an imposter syndrome basically, but I feel like everyone in Oxford, especially people who aren't from backgrounds that, well, you're kind of expected to go to Oxford, will probably feel a bit of an imposter syndrome. Like, for example, myself. But don't worry about that, because now you just got to focus on the interviews. You want to ace this, you want to do absolutely amazing. But at the same time, you do not want to be overconfident. If you go into your interviews overconfident and you don't actually know anything and you're just chatting shit basically, you're not gonna get in. The interviewer is gonna be like, what the heck is this guy doing? First of all, make sure that you know everything about your subjects. Okay, maybe not everything, but make sure that you know the basics at the very least. You need to have a good understanding of the base knowledge of your subject. So let's say, for example, you're doing chemistry, you better know everything on the A-level spec of chemistry so far up to what you've learned. And be prepared for some difficult questions, because Oxbridge interviews are known for, I guess, putting you on the spot and asking you random things. For example, I got asked a random maths question and I'm doing psychology, and I was like, bruh, why you do this? I got it wrong. But that just comes to show, like, you don't need to get every question in the interview right. Here's what the interviewers are looking for. They're looking for someone who will be a very good student in Oxford. They're looking for someone who will fit the tutorial system very well. So what they want is someone who is able to articulate how they think and change their mind if they have to. If they're giving new information which makes their answer now wrong, they're looking for someone who's willing to, I guess, change their answer and say, sorry, I was wrong. If you ever get a question wrong, just say that you're wrong, okay? Like, say, oh, sorry, I got that wrong. Thinking about it now, I'm gonna change my mind, blah, blah, blah. And also vocalize your thoughts. If you're not vocalizing your thoughts, there's just gonna be a lot of silence in the interview room. The interviewers are just gonna be looking at you, and it's going to be kind of awkward, and they don't know what you're thinking. They might just be like, this guy doesn't know what he's on about, he's not thinking at all. Whereas if you're articulating your thoughts, you're like, so maybe the answer is this, but wait, no, it can't be that because blah, 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 blah. At least they know where you're going with this. At least they know whether or not you're on the right track. So yes, definitely vocalize your thoughts. And like I said, prepare for the unexpected, because they're gonna throw some random questions at you that you're just gonna be like, what the heck? Why did they ask me that question? And it's just gonna be like, yeah, this is why you gotta know your base knowledge. But even if you do know your base knowledge, they might just throw a random question at you, and they're just looking at how you think. So try not to panic, even though that is probably the thing that you're going to do. Just try to stay calm and think about it, okay? Like, they want to see how you think. So that's why it's really important to vocalize your thoughts and just say, oh, make sure you don't swear. It's very unprofessional. I don't know if that'll give you any negative points or anything. I'm just saying, classic interview stuff. Make sure you're polite and all that. So even though you're vocalizing your thoughts, don't think like, this guy looks a bit weird. No, you do not vocalize that. At interviews, apparently that's when they decide whether or not you get an offer. So good luck. Earlier I said, don't be too confident And now here's the polar opposite. You can't just sit there and say nothing. I understand that you're going to be nervous. You're definitely going to be nervous, so kind of anticipate for that so that you're able to get the words out, if that makes sense. Just try your best to do your best, I guess. That's all you really can do. You can't really plan for anything specifically because all of the tutors will ask different questions. Also, during the interviews, you're likely to have multiple interviews at different colleges. So I had 4 interviews, 2 at St. Catherine's College and 2 at St. Hugh's College. So be prepared for that. And yeah, also just enjoy your time there, honestly. Like, you'll be in Oxford, it's amazing. Don't spend your time stressing about interviews the whole time. Like, I saw some people, they were stressing out like completely, they were just silent, they were just sitting on their own. It looks really sad. I literally just spent all of my free time when I didn't have interviews just talking to people, meeting new people, and I had a lot more fun during the interview process than the people who were dwelling about screwing things up, I guess. And also, it kind of gets you into a positive momentum, you know? If you're having fun during the middle, like in between your interviews, you're probably going to walk into the interviews a lot more calm than if you spent your entire, like, a few hours of free time just stressing about the interview. Of course you're going to be stressed at the interview. Of course you might freeze up and stuff. So just try and socialize, try and just chill. Appreciate that you're in Oxford and that, wow, you made it to the interview stage because it's already quite competitive to get to the interview stage. So good luck. Quickly, just to summarize that, make sure you know the basic knowledge about your subject, prepare yourself for some really weird and surprise questions, vocalize your thoughts, and just try not to stress too much in between your interviews or just before your interviews, because if you're stressed before, you're gonna be stressed when you're there, and it's not gonna go well for you, all right? Or maybe it will, who knows? Maybe that's how we operate. You gotta know yourself, all right? Everyone is different in interviews. So yeah, that's interviews. Now let's talk about A-levels. That I didn't actually do. We're gonna be talking about it anyway, let's go. So A-levels, let's talk about that. Even though I didn't actually do them, you know? Because in 2020, essentially what they did because of COVID was they gave us our teacher predicted grades. So I got 2 A stars and an A, like I said before. You might think I'm actually really lucky because of this. And yes, in some aspect, I am really lucky to not have to sit my A-levels and not have that stress of doing that and still getting the grades to get in anyway. But at the time when exams were cancelled, I did not feel lucky in any sense whatsoever. There was so much uncertainty. There was just so much like, I don't know what's going on. And it was just like, okay, now my hands are in the fate of my teachers and the government. What do I do now? And on top of that, A-level results day was an absolute shambles. It was just like so many people got underpredicted. I was so lucky that I didn't actually get my grades underpredicted for whatever reason. I don't know why. It was a lot of chaos essentially because of COVID. And also added onto that, I was working for 5 to 6 hours every single day on weekdays when I had sixth form. On the weekends, I was working like 8 to 10 hours. I put in so much work. I put in a lot of work, and this was, mind you, since December, I think. So I did this for like about 3 months, January, February, March. I did this for about 3 months, so about 6 hours on the weekdays during sixth form. So that's on top of all of the sixth form work that I'm doing already, just in revision and preparing for A-levels, because you know what? Oxford was on my mind. I wanted to get in. I was getting in no matter what. Little did I know exams were going to get cancelled, and all that revision meant we just wouldn't sit those exams and I'd just be handed out grades. It might be a bit lucky, but at the same time, it was unlucky. There's 2 sides to it. But we got into Oxford anyway, so I'm not complaining. Can't complain after that, you know what I mean? So I'm just gonna give you some generic advice on A-levels anyway, because I was definitely on the trajectory to getting those grades that I needed. I needed an A-star, AA grades. I was aiming for 3 A-stars, and let me tell you why I was aiming for 3 A-stars. If you aim higher than the grades that you actually need, or if it's possible anyways, because I know some of you guys have like AAA star grades, 4 A-star grades, I don't know what. Good luck. But if you're like me, your grades, the grades that you need are about A-star, AA, I'd just aim to get 3 A-stars, because if you're aiming for 3 A-stars, if you drop down 1 or 2 grades, it's alright, because you can still get that A-star, AA. If you do end up getting AAA star, that's amazing. You literally got top grades, well, if you want to do 4 A-stars, good luck. I dropped chemistry in year 12 because it was not for me. Revise, you know, it's just generic things. And what I would also say is to take your January/December mocks seriously. You might think, why would I do that? They don't matter. Well, that's exactly what we thought, and we didn't have to sit exams. But Luther, there's not going to be another pandemic. Well, maybe there will be. Okay, I'm just kidding. But I just recommend taking mock seriously anyway. The reason I took mock seriously was because I was doubting myself, and I was thinking that it would be really hard to get that A-star AA grade. So I had to prove to myself that I would be able to get these grades in the mocks so that I can show myself like, hey, I got them in the mocks, I can get them again. Sometimes you got to put in more work than others. I do know that there's some people out there who don't need to put in as much work in order to get those grades, and good for you, you know, it's great. But some of us do have to work harder, and some of you guys will potentially have to work harder than I did in order to get the grades that you want, which sucks, but you got to work with what you have, you know? If you really want to get in, you got to do what it takes. Even if that means that you're going to have to work harder than other people, just remember not to burn yourself out. And if you're going to revise, I'd recommend spending the majority of that doing past paper questions / exam questions, because not only do you learn more about the content, you know what you don't know. That's what you learn from doing past paper questions and marking them. You learn the things that you don't know. And when you know that you don't know them, you're going to spend more time revising those, which consolidates your memory and actually makes you improve, you know? You'll now know things that you apparently didn't know before, but you thought that you knew. The only way you know this is by doing the exam questions and then marking them and then getting it wrong and being like, oh, I need to work on this. I'd also recommend going to a local library to do a revision. That's what worked for me. I can't really work at home, but if you know that you can work at home pretty well, just do that. It's all about self-awareness. Do what works for you. Now you know what you have to do to get the best chances of securing that offer and eventually getting a place to study at Oxford. I'll be making a video giving you guys more in-depth revision tips for exams very soon, so you're going to want to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you guys don't miss out on that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video helped you out. If you have any of your own tips for applying to Oxford, or if you have any more questions about the application process in general, then just leave them down in the comments below. I'm going to try my best to reply to all of them as soon as I can, and I will see all of them. So just go ahead, comment it down below. Or just say hi, I don't know. Same thing. If this video helped you out, or if you just enjoyed this video, just click the like button. It really helps me out because it pushes my video a bit more thanks to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit subscribe for more videos from me. This has been Luther, and I have been online. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.